Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. I want to thank Dr. Michael Fine, who joined us at 1:30 to go over today's numbers. A number of new cases reported in the state of Rhode Island, 1,700. Over 1,000 of them were from yesterday alone. On, again, somewhat limited testing, about 13,000 when you strip out the college asymptomatic testing. So we're struggling with testing ongoing, but I don't want to waste any more time. We've got Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee here. Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the invitation, Josh.
Listen, you've been at the forefront of advocating for small businesses in Rhode Island throughout the pandemic. You know, I think you've gotten credit for being the spark that forced the governor to free up about $50 million in direct grants. The Commerce Department has put out a alert that as of next Tuesday, you can't apply after that, but only $34 million is out the door. I'm sure there's some in the pipeline, but let's call it $40 million. There's still $10 million to help small businesses. Every day we're writing about a story about a small business going out of business. We could write 10 of them. What's your feeling about where we are right now and what we need to do with that small business, specifically the grant program?
So there's two grant programs. One is the Restore Rhode Island, and then the other one is the Pause, grants. So on the Restore Rhode Island, we continue to try to, facilitate the loose ends that currently exist. I think one of the things that we heard from the secretary on my town hall, virtual small business town hall on Tuesday was that small businesses that opened up in 2020 are now eligible for the Restore Rhode Island grant. So they're going to have to go directly to Commerce. They can't. It doesn't appear as though they can go right through the website. But if they're going to be coached through. So that's an important piece of an addition. We're still asking that other businesses like dentists and eye doctors and chiropractors would be allowed in, similar to when we were advocating for the childcare to be put in a month ago when they were not allowed to apply for several weeks. Because there was other money out there, and I just, we agreed that, hey, if you can't go on both, but you can go on one and go to the Restore Rhode Island. So, yeah, so that deadline is right now. That's the first real hard deadline that we've heard. So we're encouraging all the small businesses that we've talked to apply. So you get yourself in the queue, right, as you apply, and then you work from there. But that's what the Secretary Price told us on Tuesday. At the end of the day on Monday would be the deadline.
Should that go to the end of the month? Is that a reasonable deadline? And why a deadline at all?
Yeah, so one of the reasons, again, continuously kind of communicating and thank you for the opportunity to be here is that we need to spend those CARE Act dollars by December 30th. That's $1.25 billion. And $50 million has been appropriated on that Restore Rhode Island. It's short of what our office and the coalition of small businesses have asked. And we're still asking that more dollars get put in there because the demand is there. So it takes a while to facilitate the application and distribute the dollars. So I think that's why they picked that date, although the December 12th date is the closing date right now of the pause grants that have been appropriated to help businesses that have been shut down or dramatically impacted by this 2-week pause that we're 4 days into.
Right, so we're 4 days in. The governor today during her press event said she thought that mobility was down compared to last week. That was Thanksgiving. That's the busiest travel time of the year. We're right on the street. We see all the traffic. In March, the end of March, beginning of April, when there was a lockdown, there was no one on the street. There were no cars on the street. Right now, it's no different than any other day or week. Are you seeing people closing down, or are we gonna get the effect we want from a health impact, or is this just too confusing of who's open, who's closed, and people treat it as a normal business day?
Well, on the shutdown, I've been told by Liz Tanner at DBR, there's 98% compliance on her record. So I'll use that as a number of compliance on the shutdown, and then we've been advocating, Josh, that people who have been, affected by this current pause could get recovered some dollars. And then we've also worked to adjust the application, which continually seems to need to be adjusted to get the money out. And now the news is that as of yesterday afternoon, the businesses can calculate what they would receive in a grant based on 4% of their gross revenue. And prior to that, it was based on reported income. And we know in small businesses, many small businesses run a very thin line, and many small businesses pay themselves. So that doesn't show up in their net profit. And so just to give you an example, one business that we were working with this weekend was going to get a $500 grant for those 2 weeks with $40,000 of overhead for the month. And now that a business is going to qualify for something closer to $28,000. So we're continually trying to work to get those dollars out and get the money in the pockets. The other thing, I just attended this afternoon, the wedding industry's rally that was on the sidewalk near the State House. And what we're advocating as well is that there's many dollars that are still may have been appropriated, but they've gone unspent. And the governor in July, when she announced the Restore Rhode Island program, made the announcement that if there was demand, that she was prepared to put another $12.5 million into that program. So we're saying put the money in. And then also there's businesses that are saying, look, there's 2-week pause right now, but many of these businesses, including the wedding industry, has been on a 9-month pause, right? They've been
absolutely
in that business for months and months. So we can't just, we want to get money to the people who have impacted currently by the pause, but we got to keep on lobbying to get money to those businesses that effectively have been closed because of, the rules keeping us safe by closing down businesses. Well, I thought the theme today was good. Either let us open or give us money.
Yeah, listen, Luke was on with us last week. He's laid off all 16 of his workers, and one of them, sadly, has passed away from coronavirus. He says the industry between 80 and 90% unemployment since last March. So that's an industry that, Rhode Island is known as a destination wedding location, whether it's Jennifer Lawrence down in Newport or folks doing it in Providence or on Block Island. That industry has been absolutely devastated.
It has been, and before about 3 weeks before the impact of the virus was announced in terms of different shutdowns, we actually had traveled in from our international visits a core group of media specialists from China that were looking at, and I was touring wedding venues with them because their idea was to bring in multiple weddings at the same time and do a documentary about Rhode Island. And as you said, it's a destination wedding area. And so that's the reason why we need to really continue to work. So the 3 things that I've talked about in relationship to what we're talking about here is, one, we really need to review and reset how we're dealing with controlling the outbreak of the virus. And we're going to start doing these town hall meetings. It's the beginning in Wesley next week. They're going to be focus group strategies. And we're going to bring in, which I think is the grassroots that we need to listen to, Little League, sports groups, church groups, Rotary clubs, elected officials that represent the community, both on the council, school committee, reps. And I think we need to open up a dialogue and just say, hey, right now we're having a big infection spike here in the state. It's going to impact our businesses, Josh. So I'd be saying, what can you bring to the table if you were asked that could help control this virus? And I think that if that's successful, we're going to do that, repeat that over and over again in communities around the state. And then the second thing is, which I just mentioned, is that we need to do an assessment of what was appropriated and what has been spent, because December 30th is a deadline to spend the dollars, and then reappropriate those dollars that have not been spent yet into the businesses like the wedding industry and others that have been severely impacted. So there's more money. Second and third checks get to people by Christmas. And the third thing, which I think is really important, is that there's going to be more stimulus money coming in 2021. And we should need to start advocating about a strategy that makes sure that the small business industry is at the top of the list, not at the bottom of the list that has been in 2020.
Lieutenant Governor, we get all the, and we talk to them, we have a site in Worcester from the Baker-Polito administration, and in Massachusetts, you run as a ticket. And in Rhode Island, you don't run as a ticket. Despite you and Governor Raimondo both being Democrats, you're not up on the stage during her weekly press briefings. How frustrating is it that this discussion about putting small business functionally has to happen on Facebook Live and on your town halls and in the media rather than at a cabinet meeting or in a discussion of the governor and the lieutenant governor about being effective at supporting Rhode Islanders?
Yeah, so I think that the governance model you just talked about it feeds into that. If you run as a team and campaign as a team and manage as a team, that's a natural. So, I mean, in Rhode Island, it's a governor's call, and I understand that. But I can also say that on our calls, we've had key department heads. I mean, these are people that we're going to want to continue to work with. There's department heads that are responding. They're coming on our calls. We have direct calls with the department heads. So from that respect, we're getting information and we're helping people every day because the DOT director, he helps people if we call if he can, or the DBI director or the DLT with the unemployment. So these are all people that I've had close relationships and for the balance of my time as Lieutenant Governor, I'm looking forward to working with them.
Talk a little bit about the 800-pound gorilla. Governor Raimondo was somewhat rumored to be a possible candidate for Treasury Secretary. That obviously did not come to fruition. Brown graduate Janet Yellen, the former head of the Federal Reserve, was appointed or will be the president's elect's nominee. HHS director was also appeared to be in the hopper. The governor just 45 minutes ago or an hour ago announced she would not be HHS director under the Biden administration. She did not say, I will not take any role in the Biden administration. And she did not say, which one would expect her to say, I'm going to finish my last 2 years as governor of the state of Rhode Island. What's your feeling about this? How do you prepare for the unknown? And is this lack of communications between the two offices put us at a little bit of a disadvantage in case she does go to Washington?
Yeah, so only the governor knows. Time will tell what happens there. And then, to get involved in what ifs is speculation, and that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I don't get involved in the speculation. But I can tell you that one of the most important constitutional responsibilities that I have as a lieutenant governor is to be prepared in that unlikely circumstance that I become governor through the lieutenant governor's path. So we've done that, and I just was explaining that we're in direct contact with department heads from the top to the bottom, in terms of whatever services they are, and we've made an important decision in our office to develop relationships, Josh, with them. So I don't, we're prepared. That's the main thing that I think that the public should know. Speculating about anything further than that, that's got to come from the governor first, and then. But I think that your question is a good one. Are we prepared because that the governor and the lieutenant governor don't run together? We're prepared because we have access and direct access to really good department heads that I'm looking forward to working for over the next couple of years. Working with for over the next couple of years.
Listen, we're headquarters to two major gaming companies in England. They would have a line on whether or not you're going to replace Gina Raimondo in the next 3 weeks. Have you thought about talking to Mark Crisafulli, who heads up Twin River / Bally's, and see if he can put that in the sports gaming category of?
Well, they put that up there, and people want to bet it and bring some revenue into the state. Be my guest.
Let's go back to small businesses. You were a small business person. I run a small business. Thankfully for us, this has not been a debilitating impact, but we're in a very, very small minority. It's like a hurricane has gone through overnight. We're not going to see the devastation until first, second, and even third quarter of next year. As I said when we opened, we could write stories about storied Rhode Island businesses closing every single day because of the impact of the coronavirus and the recession on our economy. How well are we situated not only to make sure that somebody gets a check for this 2-week partial shutdown, but also when, January, February, March is not exactly killer times for most businesses, retailers, restaurants. I can go down the list. It's more than half the businesses in the small businesses in the state. That's not prime time. Are we in a situation to have the resources to be able to help small businesses into 20 and 21?
Yeah, so I'm a small business person just like you are, and when I spoke today, I said, look, I've walked in the shoes of these small businesses that are struggling now. I've rode this roller coaster through a banking crisis, and a business that was very solid got very close to closing. I understand, the anxiety, the loss of sleep, the wondering whether you're going to pay the payroll, wondering if you're going to keep your staff employed, wondering whether, in some circumstances, whether you're going to keep your home. Many businesses collateralize their personal residence, with their business costs. So, yeah, I get it, and that's why I take this so personal. Josh. The answer to your question is that's why I was saying on the third thing that I think we need to work on is really starting to prepare to make small businesses at the top of the list when the new funding comes in federally, and we know it's coming in. They're talking about a bipartisan $900 billion package, and $288 billion of that's going to is if that went through. I'm sure that it's going to look differently than proposed, but that would go to small businesses. So we need to know. We need to really. The answer to your question is we're going to need outside help. During the banking crisis or the 9/11 downturn of the economy, or the real estate crisis, those are really difficult to manage. This one is even more difficult, and that's why that's why I've been working very hard to get the CARES Act dollars appropriated as they were to the small businesses as the guidelines allowed. That's how you're going to help a lot of these businesses. You're going to buy them time, and that's why I'm trying to say let's huddle the dollars that we have available right now. We have a very simple pass to help thousands of businesses right now. We're approaching 3,000 businesses on the Restore Rhode Island grant alone. So if you put more dollars in, you could get a third check to those businesses by Christmas. And then when the dollars come in from Washington in January or early February, whenever they kind of get their act together, we should be building the case through the Small Business Coalition that they're front in line. Remember, the vaccine is going to be in progress. The health crisis is not going to be behind us, but it's not going to be so far in front of us that we can't give priority to our economy. And that's what I'm going to be certainly working hard to make sure that happens on behalf of our small businesses.
Lieutenant Governor, you've developed, and not always in the easiest structure, a good working relationship with Stephen Pryor, and it's now functioning and working. Do you get the sense that he understands the total depth of how complicated this is going to be throughout the next 12 or even 24 months? This isn't going to turn, and to some degree, there was a recession coming at some point. This only exacerbated this.
Yeah, so I can talk real time right now, and the secretary and I have had a number of conversations. We're still trying to, he's certainly been respectful of my pushback on things, and I respect him for that. And we've been made some adjustments, but like I said, there's a lot of work ahead of us. I've been there. I have been there. I've seen a business under no fault of my own, I don't think, and the people that work with us, I've seen it come very close to closing. And so these circumstances are real, and we need to really respond in a real strong way. So we'll we'll keep the conversation going on with the secretary. And this is where I'm saying again, the dollars that are coming in, we don't know what they look like, but we know they're coming. There is going to be coming in, and we need to make sure that we build the case with Stefan, with the governor, and that's a top priority is the economy. Like I said, we won't be worked our way all the way through the virus and the impact of COVID in terms of from a health perspective, but we'll be on our way in terms of the vaccine. So we now to make sure, and I think your point is a good one, Stefan. Right now, we've also got taxation that's doing these grants as well. We need to think about how slow it has been, how painful it's been to get the dollars to these businesses, and then figure out a way that the next round that we do a lot better because of the experience that we've had.
Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee, thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate all your advocacy. I think you've built a lot of respect with small business people. We hear it nonstop, and it's good to see that there's a good functioning relationship between commerce, because I do think folks understand or getting an understanding of how the depth and the complexity of the impact of what this virus has meant economically for so many small businesses. And as you know, this is a state of small businesses. We got one CVS, we've got one Hasbro, we've got a Textron here or there, but not a lot else.
Josh, just close your eyes and think, and I said this as a mayor as well, that there's no small businesses in your town.
Yeah.
What does that town look like? And how do you balance your local budget? How do you balance your state budget? That's why this is critical. I thank you for having me on, because if 2 or 3 businesses hear that the deadline is for the Restore Rhode Island grant is on Monday, and they apply and they get them. So I'm visiting businesses that are all around the state. I've been almost all 39 communities. If Block Island didn't shut down their small business stroll the day after Thanksgiving, Susan and I would have been there delivering masks and meeting with the businesses there. We're meeting with these businesses, and we know the pressure that they're under. So if you functions like this, media coverage like this, I know there's going to be businesses that are going to now say, oh, it's going to be 4% of gross revenue on that, on that pause grant. That makes sense for me. I'm going to go do the work because I can calculate what I'm going to receive. That's so important. So if you get 5, 6, 10 more applications in, it's like I'm telling the local mayors, you could put hundreds of thousands of dollars into the pockets of small businesses. And again, it's not a gift. These are grants that have been given by the federal government to the local states to appropriate to their small businesses, because they've recognized that without small businesses, our communities will never look the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. For everybody else, stay tuned for more updates. Today has been nonstop news. And for everybody, wear your mask. Save a Rhode Island job of your neighbor. Save a small business. It's pretty much that simple. It's all about the mask, of containing the virus, and wearing a mask is the best solution. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jeff.